Hello, my name is Wouter and this is what we'll be making today. It is a growing vine that gets thicker as it gets longer. So how did I make this effect? I'll explain real quickly the different steps we're going to take and then we are going to dive right in. First of all, I've got the growing vine itself using a write-on effect to draw the overall shape or the end shape. Then I've got a stroke effect of which the brush size is animated over time. And finally I've got a gradient that has the same shape again and is from medium gray all the way to black, which will be used as a gradient map to drive a time displacement effect on the thickness. So I'm going to hit Ctrl Alt W to close all my compositions, hit Ctrl N to make a new composition and call this one Growing Vine. Make it about 5 seconds long. Now I'm going to hit Ctrl U to make a new solid, make sure it's black and that it is comp size. Now the first thing we need to do is to design the vine. And I'm going to do this with a mask path, which I will quickly draw out and won't spend too much time tweaking, I promise, because I don't want to waste your time too much. Let's say we're happy with this shape. You might want to spend a bit more time on it, because if you want to change the shape later on you can, but it's easier if you're happy from the start. And I say I'll keep it at this. I will keep it at this. So we're going to apply the write-on effect and we're going to hit the stopwatch for the position, the color and the size. We're going to hit U to bring up these properties and Shift M to also bring up the mask path. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the mask path and paste it onto the brush position. Now I want this animation to be about 4 seconds long. So I'm going to move this keyframe to the 4-second mark, hit F9. I'm going to set a keyframe for the brush size, set it at 2, hit F9 again. Go to the beginning of the timeline and set the brush size to 35. Now, this is not what we want. The line gets thinner over time. And to fix that, we need to set the brush time property to size. Now we've got this rather crooked growing vine, but I promised I wasn't going to tweak it to not waste your time, so I won't. Next we're going to keyframe the color. I want to end on a nice bright green. A bit before that I want to have a darker green. And at the start I want to have a brown color, as if it were wooden at the stem and gets more plant-like as it grows longer. Let's have a look. Are we happy with this? I might want to move this in a bit. Yeah, let's say we're happy with this. I'm going to rename this layer and call it Growing Vine, and I'm going to duplicate it. First thing I'm going to make is the vine thickness. So I'm going to delete the write-on effect and replace it with a stroke effect, and I'm going to animate the brush size. Now we want to do the brush size of the vine thickness layer. Let's rename it to do the exact opposite as the brush size of the growing vine. So we're going to start at 2 and we're going to end at 35. I'm sorry, end at 35. Now we also want to, since we're here, make it into our shading layer. Set the color to medium gray and apply a bevel and emboss layer style, of which we will keyframe the size. Same thing, end at 35, start at 2, and I always forget this, we need to do on transparent so the bevel and emboss can do its magic. So there we have it, halfway there. I'm gonna copy the growing vine layer again, call this vine gradient, and make the gradient map that we will use to drive our time displacement effect later. So hit U, and all we want to do is start the color off as white and end it as black. One more thing we want to do is we want to apply a levels effect and clip the values so we only have colors that are darker than medium gray. So I've applied a levels effect and set the output white to 120. That's it. We've got all our elements. We're going to pre-compose the vine gradient, call it vine gradient, why the hell not, and move all attributes into the new composition. We're going to move the cursor to when the animation completes, or after the animation completes, and hit time freeze frame, because we're only interested in the final frame. Now back to the vine thickness layer. We're also going to pre-compose that one, call it vine thickness, move all attributes, and we're going to apply the time displacement effect. Set the time displacement layer to the gradient, the maximum displacement to the length of our animation, which is 4 seconds. And now if we go from the beginning of the comp to the end, I'm gonna play this out real quick. You see that the curve is growing thicker. First, where the gradient pixels were gray, and as the time moves along, the black pixels also grow thicker. Now we are going to move the vine gradient all the way to the bottom. We're going to select the growing vine layer, make sure our paint style is set to on-transparent. Use the vine thickness, set its mode to overlay, which we do because we want the shading, and we're going to set the preserve transparency to on. Now, almost there, set the growing vine alpha track matte to vine thickness. And if we preview this, we get our growing vine, but we don't have the shading because by setting the alpha track matte, this visibility was shut off. So turn it back on, and here we are. We've got a growing vine. It starts out small and gets thicker as it gets longer. It's shaded, it's colored, it's everything. The effect is ready. I'm just going to do one more thing, and that is I'm going to add a turbulent displace to an adjustment layer, because as this vine grows, its center of gravity will shift, so it should move about a bit while it is growing. So I'm going to go to the beginning of the timeline and keyframe the amount, the offset, and the evolution. Hit U, move to the 4 second mark, and well, as we can see, this is like way too strong. Go to the beginning again, set the amount to about 15, place the offset to where the vine grows out from, and now we move to the 4 second mark. We're going to keyframe the amount all the way down to 0. We're going to put the offset to travel over the growing vine. Set the evolution to 1. Easy ease those keyframes, and let's have a quick look. See, now it moves about a bit as it grows. Could move about a bit more, I think. So I'm going to bring this keyframe to about 2 seconds. Now, there is a slight problem, which you can see over here. I'll zoom in a bit. The turbulent displace puts a bit of an angle onto it, and that is because everything is pinned. So I will not pin anything, which makes the transition a lot smoother. And also the bevel and emboss is cutting off at the edge of the layer. So in order to fix that, I'm also going to apply a transform effect to the adjustment layer and scale to 105%. And now we're ready. we have got a growing vine that gets thicker as it gets longer, and it moves about a bit because the center of gravity shifts. Now, I promised you I was going to tell you a bit more about the time displacement effect, and I will, but first I'm going to show you a few more examples of what you could use this effect for. You could have a vine that is branching. There's no reason why you couldn't make several branches. You just have to make them into several compositions and composite them together afterwards. You could also have a vine that makes a loop-de-loop like so. Again, you'll have to make two separate vines and composite them together. This effect isn't only useful for making vines though. You can make graphical elements as well, like so. Hope you can find some uses for this effect, because well, I did make this tutorial in hopes that you would. Okay, so now on to the time displacement. This is the last thing I'll be talking about. I have got this composition prepared for you, and it has got a Venetian blinds effect in it. I've also got a gradient ramp in it, and I'm going to use this gradient ramp to drive a time displacement effect on the Venetian blinds. I'll turn it on, show you what it does, and now we have a transition from left to right, because the gradient ramp, the white pixels push the pixels in this comp into the past, the black pixels push the pixels in this comp into the future. So I will do one final render for you, have a sip of my coffee, and say goodbye. I'll see you next time.